The Bentley's glossy black paint reflected the afternoon sun like a sheet of polished obsidian as Robert Whitmore pulled up to the prestigious Brighton Academy. The billionaire real estate mogul was a man accustomed to controlling every variable in his life. The markets, his empire, even the behavior of his only daughter, Isabel. Isabel was 13, elegant beyond her years, raised on ballet lessons and etiquette classes, shielded from what her father often referred to as life's harsh realities, which is why, when she came running out of the school gates laughing, holding hands with a woman Robert instantly recognized as his household cleaner, his mind stalled, as if his entire operating system had frozen. Before we proceed, kindly like and subscribe to this channel. Angela. She was a quiet black woman who arrived twice a week to scrub the marble floors, polish the crystal, and disappear before his wealthy guests arrived. Always polite, always invisible. Robert had never seen her outside the confines of his mansion, and certainly never with his daughter. His jaw tightened. What on earth is she doing here? Angela spotted him first. Her warm smile faltered when she saw the hard glint in Robert's eyes. She let go of Isabel's hand, but the girl just looped her arm through Angela's as if protecting her. "Daddy," Isabel beamed. "You have to meet my friend's mom. She's amazing." Robert didn't move. He took in every detail. Angela's worn coat, the frayed strap of her handbag, the school books tucked under her arm. None of it made sense. "How exactly do you know each other?" Robert's voice was low, controlled, but laced with suspicion. Before Angela could answer, a bell rang behind them. Children poured out of the building, and the noise made the tension almost unbearable. Isabel's eyes darted nervously between the two adults, sensing the collision of worlds she didn't understand. Angela finally spoke. "Mr. Whitmore, there's something I think you should know, but not here." Robert's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. He didn't like secrets. He especially didn't like the idea of someone in his own house having one that involved his daughter. Angela leaned closer. "It's about Isabel, and if I tell you, it's going to change everything you think you know about her and about me." Robert's pulse kicked up. He glanced at his daughter, still smiling, oblivious, and back at the cleaner whose eyes now held something he had never seen before, quiet power. And in that moment, Robert Whitmore knew his life was about to split into a before and after. Robert drove in silence, the hum of the Bentley's engine filling the uncomfortable gap between them. Isabel chatted happily in the back seat about a science project, oblivious to the storm gathering in her father's mind. Angela sat beside her, hands folded neatly on her lap, her gaze fixed out the window. Robert had insisted she ride with them instead of taking the bus. It wasn't an offer, it was a command. He needed answers, and he wasn't about to let her vanish into the city without giving them. Halfway to the Whitmore estate, Robert finally spoke. "Start talking." Angela's lips tightened. It's not a conversation to have in front of Isabel. Robert's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Then keep it brief." Angela turned slightly toward him. Her voice was calm but carried a weight that made Robert's stomach knot. "You think you know the people who work for you, Mr. Whitmore, but sometimes they know more about you than you'd ever imagine." Isabel frowned. "Daddy, you're making this weird. Angela's been helping me with my reading after school. She's the nicest." Robert cut her off. "Helping you? Without my permission." Angela's eyes didn't flinch. "Your daughter came to me. She didn't want you to know she was struggling." That single sentence was a bullet to Robert's pride. Isabel was top of her class. He paid for the best tutors money could buy. How could she be struggling without his knowledge? Angela continued, her voice low enough that Isabel couldn't fully hear. "It's more than reading, Mr. Whitmore. There's something she's been hiding from you. And if you don't listen, you're going to lose her in a way money can't fix." Robert's heart thudded, but before he could demand more, Isabel leaned forward between the seats. "Angela, are you still coming to the showcase tomorrow?" Robert snapped his head toward her. "Showcase." Angela placed a gentle hand on Isabel's knee. "We'll see, sweetheart." The rest of the ride was suffocating. By the time they reached the mansion, Robert's mind was a storm of suspicion. Who exactly was Angela? How had she gotten close enough to his daughter to become a confidant? And what was this showcase? Isabel was talking about. That night, Robert sat in his study, replaying every detail. He had always believed in keeping his personal and professional worlds separate. Angela was paid to clean, nothing more. But somehow, she had crossed that invisible line. And for the first time in years, Robert felt the one thing he hated most. He fell out of control. Robert didn't sleep that night. He sat in the library long after the rest of the house had gone still, staring into the flickering fire as questions toured his mind. Who was Angela before she was a cleaner? What showcase had Isabel been hiding from him? And why did Angela speak to him like someone holding a secret he couldn't afford to ignore? By morning, he had decided he would follow them. When Isabel came down for breakfast in a neat navy dress, her violin case in hand, Robert forced a smile. "Your driver will take you to school," he said smoothly. "I have meetings." But in reality, his black SUV would be parked far enough away not to be noticed. At 3 p.m., the school gates burst open with the energy of the day's end. Robert spotted Angela, not in her cleaner's uniform, but in a soft beige dress, hair tied neatly, holding Isabel's hand as they crossed the road. They didn't head toward the bus stop. Instead, they walked to a modest community arts center 2 streets away. Robert's jaw tightened. An art center? Inside, he slipped into the back row of the dimly lit auditorium. Children sat in neat rows, each holding an instrument. Parents chatted quietly, waiting for the show to start. Then he saw it, on the program booklet, printed in bold letters. Annual Young Musicians Showcase, directed by Angela Morris. Robert froze. Angela wasn't just attending, she was running it. The cleaner he'd hired for minimum wage was standing center stage, greeting parents with the ease of someone entirely in her element. When Isabel stepped up to perform, she didn't look toward Robert. She looked at Angela, as though drawing courage from her. The piece was haunting, played with an emotion Robert had never seen from his daughter. By the time the last note faded, the audience was on its feet. Isabel's eyes shone with pride, and when she stepped off stage, she ran straight into Angela's arms. Robert sat there, motionless, heart pounding with a mix of pride and something else, a gnawing realization that he might not be the most important influence in his daughter's life anymore. As he rose to leave, determined to confront Angela after the event, a hand touched his arm. An older woman with sharp eyes whispered, "You must be Robert Whitmore." "Yes," he said cautiously. She glanced toward Angela. "I'm surprised she didn't tell you, after everything that happened between your families." Robert's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" The woman's expression darkened. "You really don't know, do you?" Robert didn't wait for the applause to die down. He made his way toward Angela, each step heavier than the last. She turned, meeting his eyes without flinching. "Mr. Whitmore," she said quietly, as though she had been expecting him. "Angela," Robert's voice was low but sharp. "We need to talk. Now." They stepped into a quiet hallway. Robert's hands were clenched, his voice trembling with both suspicion and the sting of the stranger's words. "Someone just told me there's history between you and my family." "That's impossible. I've never met you before." Angela took a breath, her eyes steady but filled with something deep, pain, and a hint of pity. "You've never met me," she said, "but you knew my father." Robert's brows furrowed. "Your father?" She nodded slowly. 22 years ago, your company was accused of a safety violation at one of your factories. An accident killed 3 workers. My father was one of them." Robert's chest tightened. He remembered the case, not in detail, but as one of many legal battles his corporation had faced. He had signed off on settlements without looking at the names, without thinking about the faces. "You think I know you didn't cause it with your own hands," Angela said, her voice calm but cutting. "But you signed the papers that silenced my mother, forced her to take a payout, so small she could barely keep the lights on. We lost everything. I was 13, and I had to raise my little brother while watching my mother clean houses just to survive. That's why I clean now. Not because it's all I can do, but because it keeps me close to the people who think they're untouchable." Robert's throat went dry. "And Isabel, why are you with her?" Angela's expression softened. "Because she reminds me of myself before the world got cruel." She's bright, she's talented, and she deserves someone who will fight for her when she's not in the room. I didn't plan for her to attach to me like this, but once she did, I promised myself I wouldn't let her lose her light the way I lost mine. Robert stared at her, the weight of her words settling like a stone in his chest. In that moment, he saw Angela not as an employee, but as a survivor, a woman who had every reason to hate him, yet had chosen to protect the most precious thing in his life. He swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me from the start?" "Because I didn't want this to be about revenge," Angela said quietly. "I wanted it to be about doing what's right. Your daughter doesn't need to know the ugliness of the past, but you do." For the first time in years, Robert felt the sharp edge of shame, not the kind that comes from being caught, but from realizing you've been blind for far too long. He looked through the doorway at Isabel, laughing with her friends, clutching her violin. Then he turned back to Angela. "You've done more for her than I have in years," he admitted, "and I owe you more than I can repay." Angela shook her head. "Don't repay me. Just change. Make sure no one else's father has to die because of decisions made in an office." Robert nodded slowly, a man humbled. He knew the past couldn't be rewritten, but the future was still his to shape. Sometimes, the people we underestimate carry the deepest truths about who we are and what we've done. Respect is not given by status, wealth, or power. It's earned through compassion, humility, and the courage to face the harm we've caused. That day, Robert learned that the most valuable lessons in life often come from those we think are beneath us, until they stand tall enough for us to see the truth. Kindly subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories.